Hello class, today we are going to be talking about mitosis, which is part of cell division. This lecture goes along with your worksheet, so please fill in the blanks as we go through the notes. So why is mitosis necessary? Well, we've got three main components as to why we need to have mitosis or cell division. The first is growth. If you didn't have cell division, then there would be absolutely no growth of the organism. This especially happens whenever you're really young and you're growing really fast from infant into toddler and then from toddler into adolescent. That is when the majority of your mitosis is happening at a really, really quick pace. The second part is for development. Your body cannot develop without mitosis. As you're going through your life stages and you hit adolescence and puberty, for your development to properly take place for boys and for girls, you have to have mitosis. It's also making sure that your organs are developing properly, they're growing properly. And then the third part is repair. This would be, for example, like if you were to be cut. If someone were to cut you or you were to cut your finger even on paper, a paper cut, what's going to happen is as soon as those cells have been ruptured or damaged, what's going to happen is it actually sends a signal out to the surrounding cells that tells it that we need to start growing faster. And so it repairs itself through the process of mitosis. So the type of cells that go through mitosis is every living cell, whether it's prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Prokaryotes, such as your bacteria, they undergo binary fission. And binary fission basically means that it starts splitting apart at one section, and as it's splitting apart, then it remakes the other half until it's completely into two separate cells. In eukaryotes, so those are your fungi, your protists, your plants, your animals, it goes through mitotic cell division, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so here's an image of binary fission, and this is a bacteria. You can see the prokaryotic chromosomes. You can see, which this is the chromosome here. You've got your plasma membrane, and then you've got your cell wall. What happens is the chromosomes will double, so they're duplicated. See how they're bigger here? And then after that, the cell continues to grow, but you can see that it's starting to pinch off. You see how it's pinching off? And then as it pinches off and separates, these pieces are regrowing. Okay, so once you've got two cells, you've got actually original half of here and half of here. The rest of it here and here is new, and that's what has been made through binary fission. Mitosis is the division of somatic cells. Somatic cells are your body cells. So, for example, it's liver, heart, skin, blood, any part of your body cells that are not sex cells. So, if it is not a sex cell, if it is not sperm, and if it is not egg, then it undergoes mitosis. Here's a picture of mitosis. There are 4 different phases of it. You've got prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and it ends with telophase. In prophase, what happens is you can see here how you've got the nuclear membrane. The nuclear membrane starts to break apart. Also during prophase, you've got your centrioles, whose main function is to help with cell division. You've got centrioles that are at each end of the cell, so they're at the opposite poles of the cell. And you've got spindle fibers, these threads here that go all the way across. Those spindle fibers are held by the centrioles, and what's going to happen is these spindle fibers are going to help to pull these chromosomes apart. In metaphase, what has happened is, meta means middle, so it's the phase where the chromosomes line up at the middle. You can see they're straight down the middle line here. You can see the spindle fibers have attached on each side, so they're attached to the part that's going to be pulled to this side, and this spindle fiber is attached to the part that's going to be pulled to the right side. In anaphase, the spindle fibers are pulling them. You can see how the chromosomes have split at that point. One of them's going to the left, one of them's going to the right. You can still see your spindle fibers here in the middle, and your centrioles are still connected to your spindle fibers here. You can also see that the cell is actually starting to divide. Your last phase is telophase, and in telophase, you're going to end up with two daughter cells. So from one parent cell, you end up with two daughter cells. And you can see that the nuclear membrane is reforming. Your cell membrane is there, and your nuclear envelope on this side is reforming as well. Now, this is an animal cell. If it were a plant cell, this part right here would actually be called a cell plate because of the rigid cell walls. But in an animal cell, it just reforms that membrane. So let's talk about this cell cycle. We've just talked about mitosis, and mitosis is M phase, okay? So M phase stands for mitosis, and then we ended M phase with, it's PMAT, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase makes up your M phase, okay? Well, in telophase, at the end of it, cytokinesis occurs, right? So if we look at the whole cell cycle, this whole thing right here, we can see that M phase actually takes up very little. Mitosis takes up very, very, very little part of the whole cell cycle. So what's left in the cell cycle? All right, so what you have is whenever your cells split, they're not the same size as an adult cell that it needs to be. So what happens is you have this whole big thing here called interphase. So all of this here is interphase. And interphase starts with the G1 phase, and that's when the cell starts to grow after it's divided. Well, after it grows, then it needs to start copying its DNA again so it can prepare for cell division. So if it doesn't have the right number of chromosomes, if the DNA has not been copied correctly, then mitosis is not going to go well. Then the third phase is your G phase. Your G phase is where it's finishing up its growth, it's finishing up the preparation for cell division, and that's where the cell division happens here. So we want to make sure that you understand that interphase is actually the longest part of the cell cycle. Okay? You've got all of this part here, all of this here is interphase. I mean, it takes up over 90% of the whole cell cycle. You only have just a short part that's your actual mitosis and then your cytokinesis, and then it starts over again. So a cell will spend the majority of its life in interphase. Interphase. Interphase, like I said, is the longest stage of a cell's life. It takes up 95% of the cell's life. The cell is growing. The DNA is being copied. And like I said, it is being prepared for cell division. So this here is a picture of interphase. It looks normal. You've got your nucleolus here in the middle. Your chromosomes cannot be seen. They are actually in the form of chromatin right now, so you can't really see them very well. Your nuclear envelope is solid, and your centrioles are paired off over here on the side. Prophase, and there's an early prophase and a late prophase. In early prophase, what's happened is the centrioles here start moving to opposite ends of the cell. Okay, so they're going to end up here and here. They've got asters, which are part of your cytoskeleton. It's helping in cell division. The chromosomes consist of two sister chromatids. In other words, this one chromosome is actually a pair. It's two of the same chromosome. Same with this one and this one and this one. All right, so we have 4 sets of sister chromatids in this picture. So prophase is actually the very first step in mitosis. Your chromosomes are going to become visible. You can finally see them. So the chromatin has become chromosomes. All right, and they're paired off into chromatids. The nuclear membrane starts to disappear. So in this picture, you can't really see very well how you can't really see very well how this nuclear envelope is, and I'm going to erase this so that you can see it. What really happens is you're actually going to be getting breaks in this cell, in the nuclear membrane, so that it can start to dissolve. Your centrioles are moving to opposite ends of the cell. Like I said, one's coming here, one's going to be coming up here. And then the spindle fibers form, and those are your asters, and then these lines here. Now, metaphase, like I said, it's where your chromosomes are lining up in the middle of the cell. Okay? What you've got is your sister chromatids are going to move and line up to the middle. And remember, meta means middle. Okay? So it's the equator of the cell. It's the very middle of the cell. If you see chromosomes in the middle in one straight line, middle means meta. You know that's metaphase. This is a picture of a chromosome or a chromatid. It's very important to know that a centromere is what actually holds this sister chromatid together. All right, and these are the actual chromosomes. Okay, those are the chromosomes. Anaphase. What helps me to remember what anaphase looks like is, let's take this one little thing right here. I'm going to bring it over here and draw it bigger. All right, so here's your sister chromatid that has been pulled apart. So we call them daughter chromosomes at this point. If you were to draw a line across it, it looks like the letter A. A is for anaphase. Okay, so the chromosomes are pulled apart and they move to the opposite ends of the cell. So these are all moving this direction. The last part is telophase. This is what happens before cytokinesis. It's the stage just before one cell splits into two cells, so telo. And the way that I kind of remember this is, if you remember the old flip phones or the old-timey phones, this kind of looks like a telephone. Okay? If you use your imagination, stretch your imagination a little bit and remember those old-timey telephones, it kind of looks like a telephone, like where your hand could hold it here and here, okay? So with that, I remember if it looks like a telephone, if it's splitting apart, then, and it's got the nuclear membrane that's reforming, if you've got that, then it is telophase. Your spindle fibers are disappearing and your nuclear membrane reappears. You can see that it's reappearing here. Okay, and then, like I said, you've got your cleavage furrow here at the bottom. And cleavage furrow just means that it is pinching together, and that's what cytokinesis is occurring. All right, so cytokinesis. Remember, you've got your cleavage furrow here. What happens is, cytokinesis is actually where they have finished breaking apart. All right, so this down here, cytokinesis has occurred. It is the splitting of cells. The cell has divided into two nuclei, each containing identical genetic information, and two new daughter cells are now formed. Now, it's important to know that mitosis is nuclear division. The whole process focuses on the nucleus. Okay, so mitosis is not just cell division, is actually mitosis is nuclear division. It's the splitting of the nucleus. So let's look at these. And I want you to write down what stage you think this is in. All right, I'll give you just a second. Or you can pause the video if you need to, if I don't give you enough time. Now, let's look at these. You've got these, this is a plant cell. Okay, all of these are plant cells. Number 1, write down number 1, and here's a picture of it as well, and tell me what you think that is. What stage is it? Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, or telophase? I'll give you a hint. If you're looking at the chromosomes, if they are in the middle, it's metaphase. If they're being pulled apart, it's anaphase. If you can just see the chromosomes and there's nothing really going on other than you can see the chromosomes, or the chromosomes are really light, that would give you your first hint that that's prophase. Telophase, remember, is when the two cells are pinching off. But since this is a plant cell, then you're going to have a cell plate that forms. So for number 1, what do you think it is? It's prophase. Okay? Let's look at number 2. Here's a number 2, and here's a number 2. All right, can you see that the chromosomes are actually in a line? These ones here are actually moving towards the line, so it's going to be early. But if you can see that they are actually in a straight line, then that will give you your first hint that it's what stage? It is metaphase. All right, now let's look at the third one. Okay, what does it look like is happening here? Does it look like they're just all in the middle in a jumbled up mess, or if they're in a straight line, or does it look like they're being pulled apart? And here's a number 3 as well. To me, it looks like it's being pulled apart. So, and you can actually see right here, it forms that little thing, and you can draw a line, and it looks like a little A. So which one did I tell you would look like the letter A? That would be anaphase. So number 3 is anaphase. Now the fourth one, this one is so important, and I really need you to see this. And this one it's kind of harder to see, but in this one here you can see the line, and you can see the line there. That's called the cell plate. Cell plate. Okay? And it's running straight across, and that's how its cytokinesis happens, because it's forming a new cell wall. All right, quiz time. What did I tell you is the longest phase during the cell's entire life? So you had that circle, and remember it was divided up, right? Like this. And this is your M phase, your mitosis. This one was cytokinesis. And then you had G1, S, and G2. And all 3 of these were called something. What phase was that called? If you said that that was called interphase, then you're right. Okay, that is interphase. What are the 4 stages of mitosis? Okay, so we've got our cell cycle here. Right? And in M phase, mitosis, I told you it was composed of 4 different parts. And we remember it by PMAT. So what does P stand for? Prophase. What does M stand for? Metaphase. What does A stand for? Anaphase. And lastly, what does T stand for? Telophase. All right, so out of those 4 stages of mitosis, okay, so the M phase is mitosis. Out of those 4 stages that we just talked about, the PMAT, which stage are the chromatids lined up in the middle? Which one did I say that you could help, that would help you remember middle? Which word means middle? If you said metaphase, you are right, because meta means middle. When does the nucleolus and the nuclear membrane disappear? All right, when does it begin to disappear? Remember, we're talking about the phases of mitosis. So which of the phases does it start to disappear? If you said prophase, then you are correct. During late prophase, the nuclear membrane and the nucleolus completely disappear so that the chromosomes can start migrating towards the middle. What is the stage called when the cytoplasm splits into 2 new cells? Which stage? All right, we know it can't be prophase because that's when it's just starting, right? We know it can't be metaphase because that's when they're lined up in the middle. We know it can't be anaphase because that's when they're being pulled to either side. So all we have left is telophase. Telophase is the stage when the cytoplasm splits into two new cells. Now, what did we say was the actual process when that cleavage furrow finishes breaking off during telophase? Do you remember what process that's called? If you said cytokinesis, you are correct. So the actual stage is telophase, but the process is called cytokinesis. So can you tell me what the end result of mitosis is? What happens after the telophase happens and cytokinesis occurs? What is the end result of mitosis? If you said the result of mitosis is two daughter cells that are identical to the parent cell, well, if I can spell, that are identical to the parent cell, then you are correct. The end result of mitosis, and I missed a word, sorry. Two daughter cells that are identical to the parent cell. That is the end result of mitosis.